If you are not an antinatalist, you cannot be a vegan.
Eating non-veg is against Hindu religion. 7 people have asked this. Review on Ed's new book.
I have read his current book, but I left it at around 60% mark.
What are your thoughts on PETA India?
Hi everyone. So this video was long pending where I'm going to answer your questions asked both on YouTube and Instagram. So let's get started. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing so much of clothes, I'm in north of India, so it's very cold here. So let's start. What's the first question?
So the first question is that, is there a perfect vegan? Followed up with the question that can a vegan use leather, wool, etc. bought in their non-vegan phase or buy second-hand from a thrift store?
I don't see anything as perfect or imperfect vegan. Either you are vegan or you are not. That's the first part of it. On buying at a second-hand thrift store, I am against that because when you do that, you are still creating demand for that product. Think of it this way, that when a product is sold second-hand, even then you are putting in money into the economy of that whole supply chain. So it is not vegan. Last thing, that is a bit complicated, whether you should use products which you already bought during the non-vegan phase. So I would suggest not to do that because of two reasons. One, when you do it, there's a symbolic message which goes out to others that it is okay to use such products. That's one thing. Second thing is, when you use these products, even then you are still treating animals as commodity, right? You are still using a product which has been derived from their flesh or from their body, and hence it is important to reject such products. And just to reiterate the definition of veganism, it is to reject the commodity status of animals. So when we use such products, we are still clinging to the commodity status of animals.
So the next question is, what are your thoughts on PETA India?
So I have mixed feelings about PETA. So I think one of the good things that they do is go after specific brands, be it PETA India or the PETA Global page. So in India, they have targeted the big dairy brand. In the West, they keep going after companies like Starbucks and so on and so forth. So that is something which I admire. That being said, there are certain aspects of PETA, specifically PETA India, which I do not understand or appreciate. For example, them collaborating with vegetarian celebrities or even celebrities who are not even vegetarian, and that though generates some sort of buzz around ethics of animals, but eventually backfires. I think that has happened in the past. For example, the whole situation with Shilpa Shetty. She was awarded something by PETA India on the lines of animal ethics, and a few weeks later she was found posting on Twitter eating animal flesh. So I don't understand or appreciate that. That being said, it's an organization, so it has its own set of rules, code of conduct, how they operate. But I know individuals from PETA India who are really dedicated to the cause, one of them being Meet Usher, who I interviewed recently. So yeah, they have good people working for them, but what their ideology is at the broad level or at the company level, that is something, like I said, I have mixed feelings about.
So next question is, how do you not get affected by Instagram trolls and negative comments? 7 people have asked this.
So I don't get affected because I don't take them seriously. I think we should not take them seriously. And let's keep our ego aside when we deal with trolls. It is essentially a reflection of their insecurities. So either you can ignore it or maybe post a sarcastic comment from time to time and take a screenshot of it and make a post out of it, which I sometimes do. But apart from that, don't pay much heed to them. They are absolutely irrelevant, and most of them are from anonymous accounts, so it doesn't matter.
So the next question is, I want to become vegan, but my parents aren't allowing me to. What should I do?
So in India, there's a very common problem that the decision makers, our parents and sometimes children, have no option but to listen to them. I mean, it is unfortunate. It is a similar case of how one would react if they are in some sort of institution. For example, in a hospital or in prison or something of that sort, where you don't get to choose what you will consume. It is forced onto you by the system or by the folks. You can revolt, you can voice your concern, but eventually you are not the decision maker. In your case, I think it is okay, because few years down the line, when you will become an adult, when you will go out for studying or for work, at that time you can give up all animal derived products. Right now, giving up products is not in your control, but you can still educate others about veganism. You can educate your parents about animal rights.
How to deal with non-supporting family members or friends?
That depends on how much of non-support they are causing, in the sense that if they are completely dismissive or they are mocking you, I would suggest that you ditch them. It's easier if they are your friends. It's not so much easy if they are your parents, but you can still voice your concern. Just don't be okay by their non-supporting nature. Keep your stance very clear. What's in your control is the message that you want to deliver. How they receive and react to it is not in your control. So in a compassionate and in an assertive way, tell them that what your stance about animal ethics is, and then how they react is really about their maturity and understanding.
Next question is it ethical to generate money from social cause? And 3 people have asked this.
I think it is not only ethical, but it is also important to generate money from a social cause, because that will take care of your finances, which will free up your time to focus on the cause more. So if you are someone who is, let's say, not making any money from your social work. In that case, you will be dependent on other source of income, which will take away your energy and time. So if you can find out an ethical, legitimate method of making money from a social cause, then please go ahead and do that. I genuinely believe, and as an MBA grad, I can say this with some authority, that there is no dearth of money in the market. Every day, hundreds and thousands of startups in India are failing, where investors and so many other folks are losing their money. If you are making money from a social cause, it will flow from one of these channels somehow, and that's perfectly fine. I encourage everyone to make money from their social cause because that will keep them motivated.
Any plans to collaborate with Joey Carbstrong? You both are my favorite activists. And there's a follow-up wherein people have asked about your collaboration plans with People Farm and Arvind Animal Activist. A lot of people have asked this.
Thank you so much for calling me your favorite activist. Joey Carbstrong, no plans as such. I don't even know that if he's aware of my existence. People Farm, I haven't had the opportunity to discuss with them. On Arvind, so I would like to say here that he has been very supportive and gracious in helping me out in the past 1 year or so with my content creation journey. And I have requested to him to do a collaboration with me. So whenever he visits Bangalore and if he has the time and the bandwidth, we will surely do that.
Do you believe euthanasia is a good practice?
I can't give a blanket response to that. In my opinion, euthanasia has its own merits, but it has to be seen on a case-to-case basis. I think if there is a law or a rule to be made at a blanket level for euthanasia, specifically active euthanasia, then it will do much harm than good because people will take advantage of it. And hence, I say that every case has to be assessed individually and there should be a detailed assessment of all the stakeholders involved, family members, the person who's resting on bed, the medical authorities and so on and so forth, and then a judgment should be passed.
Tell people that eating non-veg is against Hindu religion.
So religion, in my opinion, can be very subjective in nature, at least the interpretation of it. Let's say there are two folks who follow the same religion and read the same scriptures, yet the understanding they will arrive at can be different. So I am a Hindu, and Hinduism is a dharma, that is code of conduct or principles or ethics, and we have to see what values are we deriving from our religion. It can be any religion, but what is ultimately the value that we are deriving? So the values that I derive from my understanding of Hinduism is ahimsa, karuna, nyay. So it doesn't matter which religion you follow. If you think that your religion stands for non-violence, compassion and justice, then by not being a vegan, you are inconsistent.
Are you an anti-natalist or do you support anti-natalism?
I'm not an anti-natalist, and from my limited understanding of anti-natalism, I do not support that. So from whatever I have understood, if one of the eventualities of anti-natalism is that humans cease to exist, then I stand against that. And only from that aspect, if I have to speak, I don't support it because I believe that humans should exist. Only thing is that we should give up our vices. In my opinion, anti-natalism is a defeatist position where you have given up on humanity. So that is my limited understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But very important point to note here is that being anti-natalist and being vegan are two separate things, because I've seen people say that if you are not an anti-natalist, you cannot be a vegan. That is a wrong perception, because when I say vegan or when I talk about veganism, I'm just talking about rejecting the commodity status of animals, and that has to be separated and seen in two different lights. That being said, I would like to clarify that me and my partner, we are child free. That is, we personally would not procreate, but the reason is very different. One of them being that there are already so many children on earth today who needs help. So if we want to support a child, then I think it makes sense to adopt one of them.
How do you do activism full time?
Oh, I don't do activism full time, and I have not figured out a way to do it full time. I have some plans to execute which will bring me closer to doing activism full time, but it is still far off.
How do I become well articulated like you? Where do you learn art of street activism?
Thank you so much for saying that I'm well articulated and the art of street activism. So I think street activism as such is not an art in itself. There are certain nuances to it which you need to learn because it's sometimes get difficult to talk to people on street. But that being said, if you really want to improve it, work on your communication skills, which is going beyond just learning a specific language. Because more often than not, that is what people think, especially in India. People think that if you are fluent in English, your communication skills are good. That is the very basic of communication skills. And with regard to activism, I think learning about the non-vegan arguments also becomes the basic aspect of it. But then putting them all together and working on your communication skills is something which is very important. A good starting point would be to reflect on each of your conversation and ask yourself this question, that what could I have done better in that last conversation?
You do online and offline activism. Which one do you think is more effective?
Forget about activism. In my opinion, in today's day, there is nothing separate as online and offline. If you are doing something offline, you should think about how to integrate online part into it, and if you're doing something only online, then also think about how to integrate offline channels into it. So be creative in your own way. I don't see them as separately, and online gives you reach, offline gives you in-depth connection. You have to get the mix of both.
Okay, so the next question is review on Ed's new book.
So I did a review on Ed's earlier book. It's in Hindi. The link will come somewhere here. So I have read his current book, but I left it at around 60% mark. So one thing which I liked about the book is the way it has been indexed. That is the way the arguments have been categorized basis the thought process of the non-vegan. So that is something I really appreciated in the book. That being said, I felt that the book has tried to cover a lot of things. It's a small book. Like on Audible, you can listen the whole book in under 5 hours or so. And Ed has tried to cover a lot of things in that. It has a wide reach, but not all the arguments have been covered in depth. So that's why I haven't reviewed the whole book. Maybe when I read it, I'll do it. And another thing to note is that the book is very pricey, especially in India. I think it's somewhere around 1200 or 1600. I don't remember the exact price. So if you want to read it, then I would suggest to do it on Audible because you get the credits there at a cheaper price. So you can listen to the book than purchasing it, either the hard copy version or the Kindle version.
Do you watch cricket and football? Equipment used there are not vegan. What are your thoughts?
I do follow cricket, and it is very sad that the equipments used there are not vegan. I think if you are closer to the game, then your voice will become more influential. So let's say you are someone like a Harsha Bhogle or an Akash Chopra or Gautam Gambhir, then as a commentator, as a reviewer, your voice becomes more authentic. And if you are a player, even better. For example, Adam Zampa is one good example where he is in the Australian playing 11 and he is also very vocal about animal rights. So we need people in position within the cricket ecosystem to speak about it more. In fact, we as fans this time had done some demonstration outside stadium in Bangalore and in Lucknow where we were holding posters and talking to people and educating them about leather. So I think it's very important to do that, to be a fan or be in a position of power and acknowledge the issue at hand.
Next question have been asked by a lot of people. They are basically asking that how can they help you?
Thank you so much first and foremost for saying that you want to help me. So as of now, we are a very small team. It's me, my partner Hina, and sometimes we hire a couple of editors who help us out. So do check out our Instagram page. We put up stories whenever we need help. It's called Voice of Vegans with an underscore at the end. And in addition to that, I think it's more important to help the cause than to help us. So I would urge you to take part in activism. I'm sure that whichever city you're part of, there will be 1 or 2 activism or vegan groups in that city. Get associated with them and participate in activities that is happening and speak up for the animals. I think that's the biggest help that you can do to us and animals.
Okay, so next question is spread your physical reach to more cities by visiting, interacting and educating more people.
Well, I think that is a great suggestion and we do have plans for that. Like I said earlier, I'm trying to find out ways by which I can become a full-time activist so that I can travel to various cities and talk to people and document the whole journey and post it on social media. Because right now I'm working, so I don't get that bandwidth to do so much of travel, but I intend to do it. And I'm sure that eventually I'll reach there, but I think that's a great suggestion.
How do you manage your time for activism with your full-time job?
Okay, so I made a video on this one. The link I'll put here or here. Please do check out that video where I've talked about time management as a vegan activist.
How to bring laws against animal farming and slaughter in India? Any roadmap in mind?
I think we are still far off from that place, or at least I do not have a crystallized plan or a roadmap for it. Right now, I believe that we need to focus more on individual activism, that is the bottom-up approach, to change more and more people, especially people in position of power. And once we have enough number of vegans and activists, it is then when we can do a massive protest to bring about a change in laws. We can still do it with lesser number of people, but that would be less impactful. I think some people are doing it already, but it's not as well organized as it can be. But in future, yes, when we have the numbers, I think that is when we can effect a change at a policy level. So right now my focus is on individual activism, that is activism as a vegan educator, where I'm trying to reach out to more and more people. But there will be a stage when I'll give serious consideration on top-down approach as well.
Okay, so last question is how can we join you in activism? Can you please guide us?
Joining us in activism means that you can join anyone in activism or you can do your individual activism. One great starting point would be, like I said earlier, to find vegan groups in your own city. If you're not aware of them, then you can DM Vegan India Movement on Instagram. I'll put their name here. So reach out to them, as there are multiple vegan and activism groups in India, and you can join one of them and be a part of the group and start activism. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video, and you can help this channel by sharing the videos with other vegans and non-vegans because it keeps us motivated to create more videos like this. So until we meet again, this is Shivam signing out. Namaste.